Eli Mercer stood at the edge of a huge space junkyard on a barren asteroid. Old spacecraft and satellites were scattered around him. One ship stood out. It was said to have fought in the Great Nebula Wars. Now it was just another piece of scrap. The ground crunched under Eli's boots as he walked through the junkyard. He was looking for something special among the old ships. This place was more than a junkyard to him. It felt like diving into a treasure trove of history. "Be careful, Captain," said Dex, his robotic helper floating next to him. Dex was small but smart, full of data about every ship ever made. "You see that? It's a D-17 ion cruiser. They stopped using it after the peace treaty." Eli barely nodded. He was focused on a ship partly hidden by metal scraps. Its hull was rusty and had no marks to tell where it was from. It was huge, a kind of ship built when battles ruled the stars. The air smelled of hot metal. Eli's breath showed in little puffs that quickly disappeared. He touched the ship's cold, rough surface. It felt like touching history. "That looks ready to break any second," said Dex, checking the ship. "Or it could be our biggest find yet," replied Eli. His voice was full of hope and excitement. He linked his datapad to the ship's panel and got past the old security steps. The ship's past data showed up on his screen. It was an experimental warship, lost after flying through a wormhole. Its technology was old, but had once been cutting edge. Eli's heart beat faster. He could see himself fixing it, making it powerful again. He looked at Dex, his eyes firm. "Note down every part we need. This isn't just any salvage. This is our new project." As the day ended and shadows grew, Eli felt the excitement of starting something big. In this graveyard of stars, he hadn't just found a ship. He had found a new direction. As Eli's silhouette merged with the dimming light, his project took shape beneath the starlit sky. With the decision made, he wasted no time. The night echoed with the clatter of his tools as he and Dex set about their first task, powering up the old warship. The silence of space swallowed the sounds, leaving only the visual of sparks flying as he connected the portable power source to the ship's dormant system. Cold steel under his hands and the tang of metal on his tongue, Eli worked by the glow of his flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating sections of the ship's interior as they ventured deeper. Inside, the air was stale, tasting faintly of decay and long-abandoned secrets. He brushed against the walls, dislodging decades of dust that floated lazily in the ship's artificial gravity. Dex floated ahead, its sensors flickering softly as it scanned the environment. "All systems appear intact, but the power grid is entirely offline. It'll need a full diagnostic before anything substantial can be done. Let's focus on getting the lights on first." "I need a better look at what we're dealing with," Eli replied, his voice echoing slightly off the metal walls. He navigated through the narrow corridors, his footsteps silent on the padded floor. Every so often, a touch to his tablet brought another section of the ship to life, revealing more of the vessel's grand design. Finally, they reached the main control room. Eli's tablet connected with the ship's console, and he initiated the startup sequence. The console lit up, bathing the room in a soft, blue light. The screens flickered, trying to sync with the datapad. "Welcome aboard the Artemis," a synthetic voice announced, crisp and clear against the backdrop of silence. Eli couldn't suppress a grin. "Nice to finally meet you, Artemis." He ran his fingers along the console, feeling the buzz of electricity as the ship began to wake from its slumber. The air shifted around him, growing slightly warmer as the life support systems kicked in slowly, bringing a fresh, metallic scent. With the power partially restored, the next hours were spent in meticulous examination. Eli cataloged everything from navigational aids to weaponry, his eyes scanning the faded labels and his fingers tracing the outlines of switches and buttons. He noted the layout, mentally preparing for the extensive work ahead. Dex's lights flickered in pattern, signaling attention. "Captain, there's an encrypted file here. It seems to contain detailed logs of the ship's last missions." "That could be crucial for us. Crack it open," Eli commanded, peering over to glance at the displayed data. Working together in a rhythm honed by countless hours of past projects, they delved into the ship's history. Each file opened revealed more about the Artemis's capabilities and her role in forgotten conflicts. The ship wasn't just a relic. It was a chronicle of battles waged and lost in the depths of space, her corridors silent witnesses to history. As the first hints of dawn began to touch the sky outside, Eli stepped back, wiping the sweat and grime from his brow. The ship was more than he had dared hope. A war machine with stories etched into its very frame, waiting to add another chapter under his command. As dawn's pale light began to seep through the void, casting silhouettes of twisted metal across the ship's hull, Eli stepped back, his eyes scanning the Artemis. The ship's rebirth was palpable, like watching a phoenix ready to rise from its ashes. The air was cooler now, the ship's restored systems exhaling a gentle breath of life throughout its corridors. Eli's boots echoed as he paced the control room, the once dormant screens now alive with streams of data. His hand brushed against the cold, sleek console, a shiver running through him, not from the chill, but from the realization of the ship's potential. The Artemis wasn't just a vessel. It was a testament to the enduring spirit of exploration and combat woven into its very framework. Dex hovered by, its lights dim in the morning's embrace, a subtle reminder of the drone's constant vigilance. "Captain, the encryption is deeper than anticipated. This might contain more than just mission logs." "Keep at it," Eli replied, his gaze fixed on the horizon visible through the control room's viewport. The stars beyond seemed to twinkle with secrets of their own, secrets the Artemis was keyed to unlock. His focus shifted as he sensed movement behind him. Jorge, his old comrade and newly recruited engineer, entered, his presence grounding. "The fuel cells are stable for now, but we'll need real quantum cores if you plan on pushing her to battle speeds." Eli nodded, absorbing each word. "Quantum cores are hard to come by and guarded like royal jewels. We'll need a plan, something clever and bold." Jorge cracked a smile, his rough hands wiping on a rag. "Isn't that our specialty? Besides, I heard about a decommissioned fleet on Ganymede. Might be worth a look." Eli's mind raced, ideas clicking into place like the gears of a well-oiled machine. "That's our next move. Prepare the crew. We're heading to Ganymede." As Jorge left to rally the others, Eli turned back to the viewport, his reflection faint against the vastness of space. The Artemis was more than steel and circuitry. She was a bridge to the future they were about to seize. His heart pounded with a blend of dread and excitement, each beat a drum of war yet to come. Dex finally chirped, its voice cutting through the stillness. "I've accessed something significant. It appears the Artemis was part of a covert operation, something off the official records." Eli leaned in, his finger tapping commands on the screen to bring up the decrypted files. What appeared were maps, tactical engagements, and a list of names, all linked to a mysterious project known only as Event Horizon. "Looks like we're not just salvaging a ship, but uncovering a ghost from the cosmos," Eli murmured, his voice low, almost swallowed by the surrounding silence. The weight of their discovery hung in the air, thick and palpable. The Artemis, with her storied past, promised not just revival, but revelation. As the ship prepared to chart a course for Ganymede, Eli felt the stirrings of destiny. This was more than adventure. It was a dance with the shadows of forgotten wars, each step forward a move towards uncovering truths buried within the cosmos itself. As the Artemis carved its way through the cold expanse of space, bound for Ganymede, the air inside buzzed with anticipation. Eli's crew, a mosaic of old allies and new faces, worked tirelessly, their movements harmonious under the dim, flickering lights of the command deck. The ship felt alive, its corridors echoing with the muted thumps of boots and the distant clanks of tools against metal, sounds of a ship rebirthing. Eli stood at the helm, his eyes locked on the star-streaked void ahead, each star a beacon guiding them toward their uncertain destiny. The scent of brewed coffee mingled with the metallic tang of the ship, crafting an aroma of readiness and resolve. "We're approaching Ganymede," announced Dex, its voice steady amidst the soft whir of machinery. The view from the main screen shifted as the moon's cratered surface came into focus, its scars telling tales of ancient impacts. Scan for any activity around the fleet. We can't afford surprises, Eli instructed, his voice carrying the weight of command. Jorge, leaning over a radar console, nodded without turning. Looks quiet, but I'll keep my eyes peeled. As the Artemis slid into orbit, the ghostly glow of Ganymede illuminated the faces of the crew, casting long shadows behind them. Their features were etched with determination, each line and wrinkle a story of battles fought and hardships endured. Eli turned to face his team, his presence a calming force. This is more than a salvage run. We're stepping into a nest of secrets that could give us the edge we need. Stay sharp. The crew dispersed, heading to their stations with a quiet efficiency. Eli's trust in them was complete. These were men who had seen the edge of the universe and still dared to stand firm. In the silence that followed, Eli and Jorge reviewed the ship's schematics on a holographic display. The soft blue light cast ghostly reflections on the table, a dance of shadows and possibilities. The quantum cores we need are likely in the high-security hangar, Jorge pointed out, his finger tracing the projected layout. It won't be easy getting in. Eli's response was a nod, his mind racing through tactics and strategies. We'll need to be in and out before they even know we're there. Stealth and speed. Their planning was interrupted by a soft beep from Dex, signaling a message incoming. Eli tapped the console, and the screen flickered to life, displaying a message from an unknown sender. "You're playing with fire, Captain Mercer. Be careful not to get burned," read the cryptic warning. Eli's jaw tightened, his gaze hardening. "Looks like we've caught someone's attention." "Friends of yours?" Jorge asked, half joking. Eli shrugged, a wry smile playing on his lips. "In our line of work, friends are as common as honest politicians." As the Artemis hovered in the shadow of Ganymede, the stakes were clear. They were not merely scavengers, but players in a game of cosmic intrigue. With each passing moment, the web of history drew tighter, binding them to a past that refused to stay buried. Here in the silence of space, with only the stars as witnesses, Eli knew that the path to power was paved with danger, and that every secret unlocked could either bolster their mission or unleash forces they were barely prepared to confront. As the Artemis drifted silently in the shadow of Ganymede, Eli reviewed the plan with his crew in the dim light of the command deck. Their faces, lit by the glow of the consoles, were masks of concentration, the air thick with the anticipation of the imminent heist. "Remember, we move in 2 teams." Eli's voice was low but clear, cutting through the tension. "Team 1, led by me, will breach the hangar. Team 2, you're on lookout. Any sign of trouble, you buzz us immediately." Jorge nodded, his eyes scanning the displays that showed live feeds from their drones scouting the perimeter. "We'll give you a clear path," he assured. The subtle hum of the ship's life support the only sound, affirming their presence in the vast coldness of space. The team suited up in gear that muted their movements, fabric whispering against fabric as they checked each other's equipment. Each breath sounded crisp in the quiet before disembarking, a reminder of the life sustained within the suits against the deadly vacuum outside. Infiltrating the decommissioned fleet was like stepping into a museum of war machines, each vessel a relic of past conflicts, floating silently as if in mourning of their forgotten glory. The Artemis team moved through the shadows, their steps muffled, their senses heightened. The cold of the hangar seeped through their suits, a constant reminder of the void just beyond the metal walls. As Eli's team reached the high-security hangar, the air was stale, tinged with the metallic scent of unused technology. His hand hovered over the control panel, a soft click sounding as he disabled the alarm, a small triumph in the vast silence. Inside, rows of quantum cores gleamed under the security lights, their sleek surfaces reflecting the team's distorted figures. Eli felt a surge of victory as he laid his eyes on their prize. "Jorge, start the extraction. Quiet and quick." Meanwhile, the lookout team kept a vigilant watch. Suddenly, a soft crackle broke the stillness of the radio. "Captain, you've got company. Looks like an automated patrol. It hasn't spotted us yet, but it's close." Eli's heart skipped a beat. "Copy that. We're almost done here. Prepare for immediate withdrawal." The sound of tools against metal filled the air as Jorge worked, the cores slowly being dislodged from their housings. Each click of the machinery was crisp, underscoring the urgency of their task. With the cores secured, Eli gave the signal, and they retreated as silently as they had arrived. The journey back to the Artemis was tense, the crew's breaths echoing in their helmets, the weight of the quantum cores a tangible reminder of the risk hanging over them. As they docked, Eli couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. They had escaped undetected, or so it seemed. But the message he had received earlier echoed in his mind, a sinister reminder that their actions might have broader consequences. Back aboard the Artemis, the cores were stowed securely, but the mood was subdued. They had achieved their objective, yet the mystery of who knew their movements and why cast a long shadow over their victory. As the Artemis pulled away from Ganymede, Eli looked back at the looming moon, its craters stark against the black sky, and wondered if they were moving further from danger or deeper into a web from which there might be no escape. The silence of space around them was a cold comfort, and the stars no longer beacons, but silent watchers of their fate. As the Artemis glided away from Ganymede, the quiet of space enveloped the ship, the stars beyond watching like silent sentinels. The crew, though successful, remained tense, their senses tingling with the adrenaline of the heist. The ship's corridors echoed softly with their movements, the air filled with a mix of relief and lingering uncertainty. Eli stood in the control room, the new quantum cores installed and humming softly under the panels, inaudible but felt through the slight vibration under his feet. He watched the data flicker across the screens, a symphony of green and blue indicators showing the core's integration with the ship's older systems. "Power levels stable, Captain. We're seeing a 20% increase in thrust and efficiency," reported Jorge, his voice steady, yet filled with a hint of excitement. The air tasted slightly metallic, the result of the newly activated cores interacting with the ship's aging structure. Eli nodded, feeling the subtle shift in the deck, as the Artemis responded with newfound vigor. "Good. Set a course for the outer rim. It's time to test these upgrades where no one can monitor us." As the ship made its silent trek through the cosmos, Eli couldn't shake off the unease that clung to him like a second skin. The message warning him played over in his mind, a cryptic puzzle that gnawed at him. Who knew their plan? And what did they want? Dex, ever watchful, rotated its sensors, the soft glow of its optics the only indication of its vigilance. "Scanning frequencies for any unusual signals or tails, Captain. If we were followed, I'll find out." Eli appreciated the drone's thoroughness. His gaze drifted to the viewport, where the infinite dance of cosmic forces played out. A comet streaked by, its tail a brilliant contrast against the void, a reminder of the universe's indifference to human affairs. The test run in the outer rim was uneventful yet fruitful. The Artemis's enhanced capabilities were proven as they maneuvered through asteroid fields with agility previously unattainable. The ship sliced through space, its path marked by bursts of accelerated energy that left ripples in the cosmic dust. However, the true test came unexpectedly. An abandoned satellite, adrift and forgotten, came into their path. Its old distress signals flickered to life as they neared, a ghost reaching out for salvation. "Looks like an old Federation outpost marker," Jorge mused, peering over the data. "Could be worth checking out for salvage." Eli agreed with a nod. "Prepare for a short detour. Let's see if this ghost has any secrets to tell." As they approached, the satellite signals became clearer, a jumbled series of beeps and flashes that Dex began to decode. The closer they got, the colder the air inside Artemis seemed, a chill that wasn't from the life support systems. The satellite was a relic from a skirmish long forgotten, its hull battered and scarred. As they docked, the touch of the old metal was ice cold, sending a shiver up Eli's spine. Inside they found logs and equipment, remnants of desperate times. But tucked among the logs was a sealed file marked with a red sigma, something deliberately hidden away. Eli's heart raced as he broke the seal, his fingers tingling with the rush of discovery. Inside, datapads filled with coordinates and cryptic notes hinted at a conspiracy buried within the Federation's archives. As they left the satellite behind, Eli knew they had just skimmed the surface of something much deeper. The Artemis, reborn from the ruins of the past, was now sailing toward revelations that could shake the very foundations of their universe. As the Artemis distanced itself from the derelict satellite, the data extracted from the sealed file began to weave a complex tapestry of intrigue that spread throughout the cabin. The crew members exchanged wary glances, each touch of the consoles sending a ripple of tension through the room. The information revealed was more explosive than any armament they had aboard, coordinates leading to a hidden military base that even the Federation seemed to have forgotten. Eli paced the control room, his steps soft against the cold metal floor. His mind raced with the implications of their discovery. If these coordinates are accurate, we're not just looking at old Federation secrets. This could be something much bigger, he murmured, the weight of command pressing down on him like the gravity of a looming star. Dex processed the data with methodical precision, its optic sensors flickering in the dim light. Analysis suggests these coordinates intersect known travel routes for high-level Federation convoys. High probability of restricted or classified activity. Exactly what we need, Jorge added dryly, his voice echoing slightly in the compact space. More trouble. Eli couldn't help but crack a smile at his friend's comment. The situation might have been grave, but the camaraderie within the crew provided a necessary buoyancy. We'll approach under stealth, observe and gather intel. We stick to the shadows until we know what we're dealing with. The crew set to work, their movements efficient, the air filled with the soft clinks of switches being flipped and the subtle buzz of screens updating. The smell of stale coffee lingered, mingling with the sharper scent of electronic equipment warming to the task. As the Artemis neared the coordinates, the blackness of space enveloped them more completely, stars obscured by a nebula that sprawled like a celestial spiderweb. The light from the nebula cast a surreal glow through the viewport, bathing the control room in eerie shades of purple and blue. The visual was stunning, yet it underscored the isolation of their mission, out here in the void, where any mistake could be their last. The first sight of the hidden base took everyone by surprise. It materialized from the nebula's mist like a phantom, vast and foreboding. The structure was unlike any typical Federation outpost. Its design was angular and menacing, with towers that jutted into space like the spires of a dark cathedral. "Looks like we found our ghost," Eli said, his voice a mix of awe and apprehension. He steered the Artemis into a cautious orbit around the base, ensuring they remained hidden within the nebula's densest folds. The base seemed deserted from the outside, its exterior lights dormant, the hollowness of its abandoned docks sending a shiver through the ship. Yet, as they watched, a flicker of activity suggested not all was as it seemed. A sudden flare of light, a brief electronic pulse, signs of life, or perhaps automated defenses awakening. "We need to know what's inside," Eli decided, his resolve hardening. "Dex, prepare the recon drones. We go silent. We go unseen." As the drones disembarked, slipping silently into the base's shadowy recesses, the crew of the Artemis waited, breaths held, senses alert. What they were about to discover could redefine their understanding of the Federation and their place within the galaxy. With each passing moment, the mystery deepened, pulling them further into a web that had been spun long before they arrived. As the recon drones slipped through the shadows of the mysterious base, the crew of the Artemis huddled around the control room's main screen, watching the live feed. The drones moved silently, their cameras panning over long, deserted corridors that echoed with the ghosts of hurried footsteps. The walls of the base were stark, utilitarian, with the cold, unyielding surfaces reflecting the dim light from the drone's scanners. The air inside the Artemis grew thick with anticipation. Eli's hands clenched slightly on the back of the navigator's chair, his eyes never leaving the screen. The atmosphere was charged with an electric sense of impending revelations, each crew member's breath a silent cloud in the chilled air. "Anything yet?" Eli's voice cut through the tension, his gaze sharp as he addressed Dex. "Negative on threats, Captain, but I'm picking up residual energy signatures. This place isn't just dormant. It's been recently activated for something, Dex replied, its sensors working overtime, analyzing data streams that flickered across the display in waves of cryptic codes. Jorge leaned in closer, squinting at a particularly grainy section of the video feed. There, stop. Enhance that. His finger jabbed at a segment of the wall that seemed ordinary until the drone's light caught it at an angle, revealing a concealed door barely perceptible against the seamless panels. Good eye, Eli murmured, a nod of approval directed at Jorge. The drone paused, focusing on the hidden door, its mechanisms quietly whirring as it adjusted its optics to zoom in. The screen displayed the finer details, the outline becoming clearer, and a panel beside it that hinted at sophisticated security measures. Silence enveloped the room as they considered their options. Breaking into a potentially secure facility without knowing what lay inside was risky, but the lure of uncovering its secrets was too compelling to ignore. Let's prep for a breach. Jorge, you and Dex work on cracking that panel remotely. Let's find out what they're hiding, Eli decided, his command carrying a mix of resolve and caution. As Jorge set up portable hacking devices, feeding algorithms and bypass codes into the system, the screen showed the first signs of success. The panel flickered, digital locks engaging and disengaging in a rapid dance of light. Almost there, got it, Jorge exclaimed softly, as the door slid open with a silent grace, revealing a chamber beyond that was starkly different from the rest of the base. It was filled with rows of what appeared to be stasis pods, each emitting a soft glow that bathed the room in a surreal light. The crew exchanged looks of bewildered curiosity. What is this place? Eli voiced the question on everyone's minds, his tone a mix of wonder and unease. As the drone ventured further into the room, the details became clearer. The pods were not only intact but appeared operational, their surfaces sleek and undisturbed by dust or decay. Each pod was a capsule of potential, the contents unknown, the purpose mysterious. This isn't just a military outpost, it's a cryogenic preservation facility, Dex concluded, analyzing the environmental readings. And judging by the energy levels, these pods are active. Eli absorbed the information, his mind racing with the possibilities. Who or what was preserved here, and more importantly, why? As the Artemis lingered in the orbit of the enigmatic base, the discovery of the cryogenic chamber added layers to the puzzle, each piece hinting at secrets that could shift the balance of power in known space. The implications were as chilling as the air that now filled the control room, and Eli knew that their journey into the heart of this mystery was only just beginning. With the revelation of the cryogenic chamber looming over them, the crew of the Artemis delved deeper into the base's secrets, their movements cautious and calculated. The air inside the chamber was crisp, tinged with the sterility that only such facilities could muster. The metallic tang of cold technology pervaded their senses as they explored, the silent pods lining the room like silent sentinels of the past. Eli's mind churned with questions, each more pressing than the last. Dex, can you access the system? We need to know who or what is inside these pods. Dex's lights flickered in acknowledgement, and the drone interfaced smoothly with the chamber's central console. Data streamed across the screen in a flurry of digits and diagrams, a digital downpour that promised answers. Accessing now, Captain. It appears these pods are linked to a high-priority Federation project that was not just classified, but scrubbed from all public records. The crew gathered around, their eyes locked on the unfolding mystery as shadows played across their faces from the monitor's light. Jorge's expression was one of grim curiosity. The implications of their findings were vast and possibly dangerous. Looks like we're dealing with something that was meant to stay buried, Eli murmured, his voice steady despite the rising tension. The chamber remained silent, the only sounds their breathing and the occasional soft click of a button from the console. As Dex decrypted the last layers of data protection, the contents of the pods were slowly revealed. They weren't just preserving people. They were high-ranking officials and scientists, all reported missing decades ago. This changes everything, Eli said, the gravity of the situation settling in. These aren't just any individuals. They're key players from the old Federation power structure. The plot thickened as they pondered the implications. Why preserve these individuals so secretly? And why here, in a forgotten base cloaked by a nebula? "We need to decide our next move," Eli stated, looking to his crew for input. Jorge was the first to respond, his tone cautious yet decisive. "We take this information back. We can't just wake them up, not without knowing the full story. Plus, there could be repercussions if it's discovered we've accessed this facility." Eli nodded in agreement, his decision firm. "We document everything, take images, download data, and then we leave as quietly as we came. Our priority is to get this information to the right people." As they executed their plan, the mystery of the base continued to unfold with each piece of data secured. The sensation of uncovering such a pivotal secret was both exhilarating and intimidating. With the data safely stored, the crew made their way back to the Artemis, each step away from the cryogenic chamber heavy with the burden of their discovery. The quiet buzz of the ship welcomed them back, a stark contrast to the silence of the base. As they set course away from the nebula, the stars seemed to watch them with newfound intensity. The universe, with all its mysteries and dangers, seemed smaller somehow, now that the secrets of the Federation were tucked away in the Artemis's databanks. Yet the galaxy was vast, and Eli knew their journey was far from over. The information they held was just a piece of a much larger puzzle, one that could unravel threads across the cosmos. As the Artemis pulled away from the nebula's enigmatic shroud, the crew felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. The weight of their discovery hung in the air, dense like the cold void outside. Eli stood in the control room, the faint glow of the consoles casting shadows that flickered across his determined face. "We need to expand our team. It's time to bring in some experts," Eli announced, his voice cutting through the low murmur of the ship. The data they had gathered held implications too vast for their small crew to tackle alone. The suggestion stirred a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Jorge, leaning against a console, raised an eyebrow. "Experts? We're not exactly operating a public venture here. Who do you trust enough to bring into this?" Eli turned to face him, the resolve in his eyes unwavering. "I have a few old contacts, specialists in their fields. If anyone can help us understand what we're dealing with, it's them." Plans were quickly set into motion. The Artemis charted a course to a discreet rendezvous point in the outer sectors, where the risks of Federation oversight were minimal. The silence of space enveloped the ship, a stark contrast to the buzz of activity within as they prepared to expand their ranks. One by one, specialists came aboard at the designated coordinates: a cryptologist, a historian of Federation politics, and a former military strategist. Each arrival brought a new layer of expertise and a fresh wave of whispered discussions that filled the corridors with a restless energy. As the newcomers acclimated, Eli held a briefing in the ship's common area, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the scent of antiseptic that still lingered from their last stop. The room was cramped, but alive with the electric buzz of potential breakthroughs. "Thank you for joining this endeavor," Eli began, choosing his words carefully. "We've stumbled upon something that could reshape our understanding of the Federation's recent history." The cryptologist, a sharp-eyed woman named Dr. Lena Marquez, nodded thoughtfully. "The data you've uncovered is encrypted beyond standard Federation protocols. It suggests secrecy and a significant level of paranoia." The historian, an older man with a beard streaked with gray named Professor Hammond, stroked his chin. "And the personnel preserved in cryostasis are all key figures from the Federation's Shadow Wars era. Their knowledge could be catastrophic in the wrong hands." Finally, the strategist, a stern-faced woman named Commander Tessa Rourke, added her perspective. "If we're right about the location of these bases, then we're looking at a network of black sites. This isn't just about preserving individuals, it's about preserving power." The meeting stretched on, the air thick with theories and plans. With each shared insight, the enormity of their task became clearer, and the cabin's confined space seemed to shrink further, compressing around them like the pressure of the deep sea. After the meeting, Eli retreated to the viewport, watching the stars streak past. The universe, once a vast expanse of exploration, now felt like a map of hidden dangers, each star potentially marking a secret that could explode like a supernova. With the team assembled and the stakes higher than ever, the Artemis's course was set not just through space, but through the tangled webs of political intrigue and buried truths. As they delved deeper, the crew remained vigilant, aware that each piece of the puzzle could draw them closer to revelations, or catastrophes, that might reach far beyond the confines of their ship. As the Artemis surged forward through the star-streaked abyss, the newly assembled team dove into their work. The control room hummed with a subdued energy, the quiet tapping of keys and soft murmurs filling the space as the cryptologist and historian deciphered the encrypted data. Each passing moment sharpened the tension, the ship a crucible where intellect and mystery collided. Eli stood at the helm, his gaze shifting between the viewport and the tactical display. The stars outside seemed to glimmer with warning, their distant light flickering like Morse code only the universe could understand. He inhaled deeply, the crisp air of the ship faintly tinged with the smell of heated circuits and coffee, a combination that had become synonymous with long nights and pressing questions. "Captain," Dr. Marquez called, her voice cutting through the ambient noise. She gestured to the console in front of her, her sharp eyes alight with discovery. The encryption wasn't just a lock, it was a map. "These coordinates here. Look closer." Eli leaned in, his shadow stretching across the screen. The overlay revealed a pattern that hadn't been apparent before, a network of bases connected like constellations, each tied to one another by faint lines that suggested routes or channels. "Each of these points corresponds to locations known for their strategic value," Marquez continued, her finger tracing the lines. "It's not just random storage. This is a carefully constructed system built for rapid deployment of something." The weight of her words settled over the room, thick and suffocating. Professor Hammond cleared his throat, his voice breaking the silence. This system could have been their fallback plan, a shadow federation, waiting for the right moment to rise. "Or worse," Commander Rourke interjected, her tone ice-cold. "A contingency designed to ensure their dominance in the event of collapse. It's a fail-safe, not for preservation, but for conquest." The implications were staggering. Eli stepped back, his fingers brushing his chin as he processed their findings. The metallic tang of the air seemed sharper now, as though the Artemis itself was responding to the gravity of their revelation. "How many of these bases are still operational?" Eli asked, his voice measured yet commanding. "Hard to say," Marquez admitted, scrolling through the data. "But one of them, it's close." The room stilled, each member of the crew exchanging wary glances. "Define close," Eli pressed. 2 hours at maximum speed," she replied. "If the data is accurate, this one is critical. It's a hub for their communication network." Eli's decision was swift. "Jorge, prep the Artemis. We're going to that hub." The crew dispersed, their movements purposeful yet tinged with unease. The anticipation in the air was palpable, like the charged stillness before a thunderstorm. As the Artemis adjusted its course, the ship groaned faintly, as if sensing the confrontation ahead. Standing alone at the viewport, Eli stared at the stars, their faint glow contrasting with the darkness surrounding them. He couldn't shake the feeling that the answers they sought were barreling toward them faster than they could prepare. The Artemis was no longer just a vessel. It was a key unlocking secrets the galaxy had tried to forget. Whether they were ready to face what lay ahead was a question only time could answer. The Artemis sliced through the void, its hull gliding with precision as it neared the coordinates of the communication hub. The atmosphere on board was heavy with anticipation, every crew member acutely aware of the weight their discovery carried. The dim lighting of the control room reflected off the consoles, casting fleeting shadows across Eli's face as he studied the map ahead. "Dex, status report," Eli said, his voice steady but clipped, the anticipation gnawing at the edges of his composure. "All systems operational," the drone replied, its small frame hovering near the navigation panel. No immediate signs of defensive measures around the target, but energy signatures suggest activity within the base. Eli nodded, his fingers brushing over the console. He felt the slight warmth of the surface, a reminder of the delicate balance between their ship's systems and the vast cold outside. We approach quietly. This isn't just another outpost. We can't risk detection until we know exactly what we're dealing with. Jorge's voice broke the silence as he leaned over a secondary display, his eyes scanning the data decks fed through. Captain, this hub isn't small. We're looking at layered infrastructure, satellites feeding into the main station, and several docking points. It's alive, whether they're hiding or preparing for something. The crew's attention locked onto Jorge's screen, where a digital layout of the station expanded in fine detail. The hub looked like a mechanical spider sprawled across the void, its limbs bristling with relay towers and antennae. A faint pulse of energy rippled across the schematic, signaling activity deep within. "We're not sneaking past that many eyes unnoticed," Commander Rourke muttered, her voice laced with grim pragmatism. "If we go in, we're making noise." Eli straightened, his decision firm. "Then we make that noise count. Dex, send a drone ahead. We need eyes inside before we act." The silence as they waited was oppressive, punctuated only by the soft taps of fingers on consoles and the occasional whir of machinery. The Artemis drifted into a holding pattern, the station looming closer, its angular design both elegant and menacing. The nebula's faint glow illuminated its surface, making it appear almost alive. When the drone's feed finally transmitted, the first images were haunting. The interior of the hub was a labyrinth of sleek corridors, their walls lined with glowing conduits that pulsed rhythmically. The sound of the conduits, low and resonant, vibrated faintly through the feed, a mechanical heartbeat that added an eerie weight to the visuals. "Are those pods?" Dr. Marquez asked, her brow furrowing as the drone entered a large chamber. Rows of capsules, similar to those from the cryogenic chamber they had discovered earlier, lined the room, each one exuding a faint luminescence. Eli's jaw tightened. "This isn't just a communications hub. It's another preservation site." Rourke's tone turned sharp. "Or a staging ground. If those pods are ready to activate, we're not dealing with relics. They're preparing for deployment." The weight of her words settled over the room. Eli's gaze lingered on the screen, the drone creeping closer to the pods. Each step into the unknown revealed more of a truth that seemed poised to reshape the galaxy. The Artemis had come too far to turn back now, but the question loomed. Would they uncover the full picture, or were they stepping into the trap of a machine still turning in the shadows? The Artemis hovered at the edge of the hub's perimeter, cloaked by the swirling tendrils of the nebula. The feed from the drone continued to stream unsettling imagery of the pods and glowing conduits, heightening the crew's sense of urgency. The weight of what they had uncovered pressed down on everyone in the control room, yet Eli remained steadfast, his mind already piecing together a plan. "Jorge, what's our risk assessment if we try to breach the hub directly?" Eli asked, his voice sharp with intent. Jorge glanced at the console, fingers tapping as he pulled up thermal scans and energy readings from the drone. "The outer defenses seem dormant, but that doesn't mean they're inactive. The real danger is inside. Those pods are powered, and there's a secondary energy signature that suggests automated defenses tied to the core systems." "We don't have the luxury of guessing," Commander Rourke cut in, her tone measured but firm. "We need a way to disable whatever security they've got without tipping off anyone who might be monitoring this hub remotely." Eli nodded, his mind racing. "Dex, can you isolate the station's communication relays? If we can intercept their signals, we might buy ourselves time to get in and out before anyone realizes we were here." Dex's optics flickered as it processed the command. "The relays are tied to the main grid, Captain. A focused disruption in their signal paths should render external communications ineffective. However, the disruption must be precise, or the system could default to a defensive lockdown. We'll need a backup plan," Jorge added, leaning over to study the drone's feed. "If we trigger an alert, we'll be pinned down inside." Eli paced, his boots brushing the cool metal of the deck. "All right, here's how we'll do it. Dex, you'll handle the signal disruption. Use the drone as a decoy to draw attention away from the relay. Jorge, you and Rourke will infiltrate the lower levels with me. Our priority is securing intel and disabling the core systems controlling those pods. And if we run into resistance? Rourke asked, crossing her arms as her sharp gaze met his. We neutralize it quickly and quietly, Eli replied. Non-lethal if possible. If we go loud, it's over. The room fell silent for a moment as the crew absorbed the plan. The tension was a tangible thing, pressing against them like the gravity of a black hole. Jorge broke the silence, his voice lighter but steady. Well, if this doesn't work, at least we won't have to worry about retirement plans. Eli allowed himself a brief smile, the camaraderie momentarily easing the tension. Let's make sure we do. Move out. The team suited up, their movements swift and efficient. The faint vibrations of the Artemis underfoot were a reminder of the vessel's readiness, a silent partner in their mission. As the drone moved to execute its decoy maneuver, the crew disembarked into the shadows of the hub, their steps calculated, their breathing steady. The plan was in motion, every detail honed with precision. As they approached the hub's entrance, the cold air bit through their suits, and the faint static charge in the environment prickled against their skin. Each step forward felt like crossing an invisible threshold, a journey into the unknown where every decision carried the weight of survival. Eli's focus sharpened. This was not just a mission, it was a calculated gamble where victory demanded perfection. The air inside the hub was cold, the kind of chill that seeped through suits and settled in the bones. Eli led the team through the shadowed corridors, their steps measured and deliberate. The faint hum of conduits coursing with energy reverberated around them, a steady pulse of the station's hidden life. The walls, sleek and unmarked, seemed to close in with each step forward, reflecting the dim glow of their tactical lights. Jorge adjusted a handheld device as they approached the first junction, his brow furrowed. Dex's interference is holding, but I'm picking up fluctuations. If the system resets itself, we'll have about 3 minutes before they lock us in. Noted, Eli replied, his voice a low whisper. His eyes scanned the corridor ahead, the faint blue glow of emergency lights casting eerie reflections on the polished floor. He motioned for Rourke to take point, her sharp eyes darting over the terrain for any signs of movement. The junction opened into a larger chamber, the floor lined with what appeared to be maintenance terminals. Above, conduits twisted like veins, their soft vibrations hinting at the energy coursing through the station. Dex's drone hovered nearby, its quiet hum barely audible as it scanned the area. This must be a control nexus, Rourke muttered, her gloved hand brushing over a terminal's surface. The screen flickered to life, displaying rows of encrypted data. Eli crouched beside her, the faint metallic scent of the air sharp as he focused on the terminal's display. Jorge, can you crack this? We need to confirm the core's location before we move further. Jorge knelt, pulling a compact hacking tool from his pack. Give me a minute. If this station runs on old Federation architecture, I can bypass it. While Jorge worked, Rourke scanned the chamber's perimeter, her fingers gripping her weapon. This place feels too quiet. If they've got automated defenses, why haven't we seen them yet? Eli's jaw tightened. They're waiting. The system's testing us, gauging how far we'll get before it reacts. Jorge grunted as the terminal's locks disengaged, the screen flooding with schematics. Got it. The core is 2 levels down, but there's a secondary system here tied to the pods. Eli leaned closer, his breath clouding faintly in the cold. What kind of system? Fail-safes, Jorge answered, his tone grim. If we tamper with the pods or the core, this whole place could trigger a self-destruct. Eli exhaled sharply, the weight of the revelation settling like lead. Then we move in pairs. Rourke and I will secure the core. Jorge, you and Dex disable the fail-safes. Keep comms open at all times. Rourke nodded, her expression resolute. We'll have to move fast. If the system detects us tampering, we won't have long. The team split, their steps falling into synchronized rhythms as they navigated deeper into the hub. The air thickened with tension, the faint buzz of power lines growing louder with each step. Eli's pulse quickened, his mind calculating every variable. The payoff for this mission lay in precision, and as they neared their objectives, the stakes crystallized. Success meant answers, but failure would leave them as forgotten relics in the void. The corridors twisted ahead, the air alive with the faint vibrations of a system on the verge of reacting. Eli and Rourke moved in tandem, their footsteps soft against the cold metal floor. Every step toward the core felt heavier, the gravity of their mission pressing against them, as the lights above flickered intermittently, casting fleeting shadows. Rourke's voice broke the tense silence. "Core's ahead, but I don't like this. It's too easy." Eli's hand tightened on his weapon. "It's not easy. It's bait. Stay sharp." The core chamber loomed ahead, its door sleek and seamless, emitting a low, rhythmic pulse that resonated through the walls. Jorge's voice crackled faintly over the comms. "Fail-safe's almost down. Just keep the core intact until I give you the go." Rourke's brow furrowed as she scanned the entrance. "If those defenses wake up before he finishes, we won't last long." Eli approached the control panel beside the door, his fingers hovering over the interface. The air felt charged, the faint scent of heated circuitry adding to the tension. "We don't have to win. We just have to hold the line long enough for him to finish." The door slid open, revealing the core, a massive cylindrical structure glowing faintly in the dim chamber. Conduits snaked across the walls like the veins of some slumbering beast, each pulsing faintly in rhythm with the core's energy flow. The hum of machinery, low and steady, was a reminder of the stakes. If the core destabilized, it would take the entire station, and possibly the Artemis, with it. "Get to the control panel," Eli ordered, stepping forward cautiously. His voice was calm, but his grip on his weapon betrayed the tension coiling in his chest. "We don't have much time." As they moved deeper into the chamber, the core's glow intensified, its pulse accelerating. Rourke muttered, "It knows we're here. This thing isn't just automated. It's alive." Before Eli could respond, alarms blared, sharp and deafening, slicing through the air like a blade. The conduits lining the walls lit up in brilliant reds and whites, and the faint whir of activating defenses echoed through the chamber. Jorge's voice erupted through the comms. "Fail-safes aren't fully down yet. Hold them off." Eli turned to Rourke, their eyes meeting in a silent exchange of resolve. "We've come too far to stop now." A series of automated turrets descended from the ceiling, their mechanical arms snapping into position. Eli dropped low, his instincts honed by years of combat. "Rourke, cover the left. I've got the right." The chamber exploded into chaos. The sharp bark of energy rounds filled the air, mingling with the metallic shrieks of the defenses as they engaged. Sparks rained down, the air growing warmer with the friction of battle. Eli's focus narrowed to a razor's edge as he moved with calculated precision, each shot deliberate, every step measured. "Fail-safes down!" Jorge's voice shouted over the comms. "Take the core offline now!" Eli sprinted to the control panel, his fingers flying over the interface as the station's defenses surged around them. The core's pulse faltered, its glow dimming as the system collapsed in on itself. The chamber shuddered, a low vibration rippling through the walls. "Core neutralized," Eli said, his voice breathless but resolute. He turned to Rourke, her weapon still raised, her expression grim. "Let's get out of here." As the Artemis's crew regrouped, the hub now lifeless behind them, Eli looked back one last time. "They thought they could bury this," he muttered, his tone heavy with determination. "But we don't stay buried. Humans don't stay buried." The Artemis moved away from the station, its mission incomplete but its message clear. Eli's gaze fixed on the stars ahead, the reflection of their light in his eyes burning with a fire that wouldn't extinguish. As the Artemis drifted farther from the now silent hub, the crew sat in the command room, the weight of their survival mingling with the enormity of their discovery. The faint buzz of the ship's systems filled the air, a soft reminder of the fragile line between safety and catastrophe they had just walked. Eli leaned against the console, his hand brushing over the edge of the tactical display. His face was shadowed, the faint glow of the screens catching the edges of his resolute expression. The silence in the room was thick, not with fear, but with unspoken questions that hung between the crew like static. "They're going to come for us," Rourke said, her voice cutting through the stillness. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, her weapon resting beside her as though it had become an extension of her being. "When the Federation realizes what we've taken, they won't stop." Eli turned to face her, the intensity in his gaze unshaken. "Then we don't give them the chance to. They built their secrets thinking no one could unearth them. They never counted on people like us." Jorge snorted, his fingers drumming against his datapad. "People like us? You mean stubborn enough to turn a pile of rust into a war machine and crazy enough to take on an entire shadow government?" Eli's lips quirked into a small, wry smile. "Exactly." Dex hovered closer, its sensors pulsing faintly as it processed the streams of data extracted from the hub. "The information we retrieved contains more than we anticipated. It isn't just locations. It's a blueprint of their contingency plan, how they intended to rebuild their power after the collapse." Dr. Marquez, sitting quietly at the edge of the room, looked up from her terminal. Her voice was steady, but the weight of her words sent a chill through the crew. "If we expose this, if we release what they've hidden, it won't just be the Federation that reacts. Every major power in the galaxy will want their piece of this." Eli straightened, the faint creak of his jacket breaking the silence. "Let them want it. This isn't about power. It's about leveling the playing field. They thought they could control everything, bury everyone who didn't fit into their plans. But we're still here, and now so is the truth." The crew exchanged glances, the gravity of his statement sinking in. Eli's voice softened, yet it carried the same unyielding strength. "We didn't come this far to hand the galaxy back to the people who broke it. The Artemis wasn't just reborn for this mission. It was reborn to remind them that humanity doesn't crumble under the weight of their schemes. We rebuild, we fight, and we win." Rourke's sharp laugh cut through the tension. "You're one hell of a captain, Mercer. If we survive this, I'm buying the drinks." Eli smirked, his hand resting on the control panel. "When we survive this." The Artemis shot forward into the stars, its path clear, despite the darkness ahead. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a defiance, a declaration that humanity was more than what the galaxy expected. It was a war machine they never saw coming, and it was just getting started.